In a world where everyone knows everything. Yeah, right. One dad stands below everyone and yells, "I know nothing."
Please welcome.
This is the Dad Who Knows Nothing podcast.
Hey everyone, this is the Dad Who Knows Nothing podcast. Today I am with Kelsey Knutson. She is a six-figure business owner turned business coach. She's got a big heart for small business, and her true superpowers come from her experiences as a salon owner and helping her clients build a business from the ground up. She's also a fellow podcaster, so that's always good to. I always love having other ones that are going through the fun of having their own podcast. I love the title of hers. Her podcast title is I believe it's When I Grow Up, right? When I Grow Up podcast. So Kelsey, thank you so much for joining us and giving us a few minutes of your time.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here and serve your people as best I can.
Nice. Thank you. So I always because we know that life is, a series of twists and turns. And even for those that are successful like you don't always start out that way. So can you kind of give us a little bit of your journey from being a salon owner to now being a business coach? How'd that all work out?
Yeah, that's a great question and very true. And anyone who tells you they haven't had failure is probably lying. So don't run if those people say that. What I'm doing now is what I've always wanted to do. I just didn't have a clear path to get there. So to tell the hair story, we have to rewind a tiny bit, which is I'm the first to go to college in my family. I also don't have any real entrepreneurs in my family. So that example did not exist. The hair thing happened because I was actually working a 9 to 5, wanted to be more creative. I was already kind of doing it on the side. And at the time, it felt like the easiest path to be an entrepreneur. Get my license, build up clientele, then open my own space. I'm already doing that thing. So why not just, make it official and do it on my own? And I did that. I had really clear goals. I had the vision of $100,000 I wanted to hit. I did that. And once I hit that goal, I found myself feeling kind of stagnant. I initially going into that thought I would have my own business, grow a team, have a bigger salon with more and more people. And the more I thought of that vision, it didn't align anymore. And there's something weird that happens when you have a really clear goal, but it changes. And then it's like, is this a me thing? Am I avoiding it for a reason? Or do I, in fact, actually want to go in a different direction? So for me, I always kind of helped people with business stuff. And like a lot of people, I dabbled in small little things, had like another podcast with another business person, started a little tiny networking group that didn't really ever take off, did some direct sales for a minute. So a lot of these little micro entrepreneurial things that I was doing. And eventually, when the pandemic hit, that was the perfect wake up call for me to kind of collect all of these side projects into an actual business. And it took time to build up what I'm doing now. I did the double Dutch for a while where I was doing hair and coaching for a while until February last year, actually. And it's been just a wild ride since. But this year, things have really, really grown and taken off. But that first year, chaos.
Yeah, and that's similar to what I hear from a lot of people who take that plunge into being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It starts out pretty rocky and there's lots of twists and turns for sure. So what was the primary reason why you left the beauty industry? I mean, it seemed like you were pretty successful in that.
Yeah, I think honestly that success made it harder because it was like, why would you leave this good thing? And I already had, I was my own business already. So that journey was a lot easier than this one. And a lot less people got it because they're like looking at me. You live this great life. You make good money. You love what you do. Dream schedule. I don't understand why you would close your doors to start this new thing. And by the way, you don't even have the financial proof to show that it's worth your time. And yeah, I don't know. I just like felt in my gut it would work out and it did, but it just I don't even have like the words to really put it all together. It just kind of was trial and error, and eventually I learned a few things and would make adjustments along the way.
Got it.
Yeah.
So with your clients, obviously being a business coach, client comes to you and they say, hey, I have this idea, or I have this product, or I have this service, or I have this thing that I do. What do I need to do to make this into a business? How do you advise your clients with that?
In the beginning, it was a lot of that. It was a lot of, Kelsey, I just need to figure out Instagram. How do I do it? How do I schedule more posts? And I did that work, helped with the logos, helped with the social media plan. And the more of that I did, I realized a lot of it actually starts sooner, and it's more of a mindset shift that has to happen. Going away from I'm Kelsey, a hair person, hairstylist, to I'm Kelsey, a salon owner. By the way, I'm a leader. I have to be clear in the vision I'm going. I have to know why we're going this direction versus this direction and have confidence in those decisions I make for my business. And the more I started to have clients who were willing to play in that space, once they could do those things, then the rest came so easy. But those bigger conversations about business as a whole, I just paid attention. I realized I was more and more interested in that versus like that digging more into the business 101, the finance and stuff too. And I should also add, I did do consulting work before. I'm like a cat who's lived 9 lives. I did do that previously through the university I went to. So I already had dabbled in the consulting arena, and this time around I just was like, I'm only going to do things that really excite me, and I only want to work with people who actually create change. To me, my why, and something that's very important, is understanding that people have big dreams, and that's great, but nothing makes me more excited than when they actually take action on those dreams. And so I really encourage the big picture steps that have to happen to get there, and then the little stuff falls into place.
Yeah, because at a certain point, as a entrepreneur, business owner, you can't be paralyzed by all the data, by all the second guessing, by all the, well, I could do this, well, I could do that. Ultimately, you got to make a decision and you got to move forward. And I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. Even if, because it's not a failure, right? If they learn, they could go one way and then move somewhere else, and at least they've learned something and they know now where to kind of focus some of their more efforts in a more beneficial way for their business.
Yeah. I think people sometimes look for a shortcut, and sometimes the answer is just putting in the work, trying, messing up, saying your message out loud to as many people as possible, and maybe tweaking it along the way to make sure it's more clear and clear to the right people. I think sometimes people look to mentors, coaches, consultants for like a shortcut for some of those things that really you just have to put yourself out there, and there's no quicker way to get there other than doing that.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
So one of the things on one of your podcast episodes that you talked about was this term called CEO Day.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, when they think of themselves as an entrepreneur, maybe pie in the sky, they now become a corporation at some point and they actually can be a CEO or that sort of thing. But what's a CEO day for an entrepreneur? Whether you're the only person in the business or you got a couple people that work for you, what is that? What do you mean by that?
In short, can I cuss on this or no?
Sure.
Light cussing. Okay. It's a day to get your shit together.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is I think many people have had this happen where you wake up and the day happens to you. You wake up a few minutes late, and then crap, you don't have time to pack your lunch, and now okay, I'm going to have to get lunch on the road. You get in the car is out of gas, and it's like all these events are just kind of, you're at the mercy of how the day unfolds. And what I learned when I was in the hair world is I was operating that way a lot, and it's extremely stressful because you're never getting in front of it. You're just reactive to everything. So for me, that mindset shift happened actually behind the chair before I owned my own business. And it was I'm gonna wake up a little earlier and take more time to like ease in the day and kind of look at the day as a whole, make sure I plan accordingly. I'm not perfect, I mess up, but by just giving that little bit of breathing room, it allows me to say, nope, here's what needs to happen today. I'm in control of it versus I'm just at the mercy of all these different events that happen. And then when I started my own business, I realized it's not enough just to have those couple 30 minutes, hour in your day. You need a full day where you are not working inside of your business. So if you're a service provider, if you're haircut person, photographer, someone like that, the hours that you work are not just when you're providing the service. If you run your own business, there's so much more kind of behind the scenes office stuff we do. And so to me, a CEO day is creating intentional time and space for those activities. So that way on the days where you're providing a service, working on your product, whatever it is, you can just focus on wearing that hat. And it allows you to be more proactive. It allows you to step into more of a leadership role within your business. And I encourage a lot of my clients only have themselves or a small team. I encourage all of them to implement this day because I think it's that important.
Yeah, definitely. It allows you to get above the weeds, right, and
Yeah.
see it at a 20,000 foot level, and you can see not only the future, you can see some of the things that maybe you're not focusing in that maybe you should be. at a current
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah, and that's work. Even though you aren't making dollars in that moment when you're doing that activity, by stepping into that mindset of no, I'm the CEO of this solo business, doesn't matter. It's that shift that happens and it allows you to take yourself more seriously, and that will help when you talk to clients, that will help in so many other areas of your business. And even though it feels like you're sacrificing, well, I could open up this day to take more clients, don't, because the second you do that, you're never going to grow and you're going to really place a ceiling at your growth potential. Versus if you create the CEO day early on and you commit to it, then the sky's the limit, because that's what all the major actual CEOs of multi billion-dollar companies are doing, is leading. They're leaders. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you talked about university. Is in your mind, is a business degree worth it?
No.
All
Not
right,
in
moving
today's
on. Oh, just
not in today's age. I think there's so many resources out there that you can DIY what you need pretty easily. That being said, the time after high school, like, use that time to really discover yourself, whether that's taking a gap year and traveling, doing a trade, finding a mentor and working under some sort of mentorship. If it's not college, it doesn't mean to just like coast during that time, because I think that time is really crucial to kind of try all the things, learn from as many people as possible. I've got to where I am because of how I leveraged my time at the university. It didn't just happen, back to like that thing happening to you. It didn't just happen to me, but I made great connections that have now come very full circle for my business, and I saw out mentors, and that would not have happened had I not gone. So I think it really is, if university isn't the exact solution, it's that intention to seek out other people who are further down the road than you.
yeah, it can be a piece of the puzzle. It
Yeah.
can be something that it provides you some benefits. Like I've told my kids, college is. I'm not saying that it has to be done. And if you are interested in going down that path, then have a plan for it. Have a
Yeah.
plan for how you're going to leverage what you're going to learn there. Have a plan for what future prospects may be once you're done. And to your point, it's all about relationships. So network, get to know people in the industry, get to know all of those things, because that in your example, it came full circle. And those things are almost more valuable than anything on a sheet of paper.
Absolutely. And I mean, did I get to have a lot of fun? I was in a sorority. Of course, I had a great time. So, I do think that experiences are worth something, but it's just gotten so expensive. And I think it doesn't hold the same weight and power as it used to, maybe some generations ago.
Yeah, I was just talking with someone on one of prior episodes, and they were from another country, and they were talking about how the United States we're really so different when it comes to our view of college or university. And I think it's sometimes the stigma that we put on that, oh, somebody's done with high school, well, they got to go to 4 years of college. And instead, he said what they do, just like you said, in other countries, they'll travel, they'll try a bunch of different jobs and see what kind of work they like. And it's almost like a mark against you in this country if you go and you're in your mid 20s and somebody looks at your resume and you've had 5 or 6 jobs over those last few years. And it really shouldn't be, right? Because that's an experience. Those are things that should allow you to kind of figure out what you want to do, which
Yeah.
is the point.
Yeah.
And we keep I have my daughter who is actually going through this program, and they wanted to find out. She had to make decisions on what degree she was going to go through because of the partnership through high school to gain some of those credits when she was 15 years old. It's like, how does anybody know at 15 what they want to do? So
Yeah.
it just it seems to be a little off with other countries and how they do it.
Oh yeah, I took that test and it told me I'd be a funeral home director. I mean, look at what I'm doing now. It's funny. Yeah.
That's a good thing to tell clients. That's probably good conversation starter.
Uh-huh. Yeah, not many can relate.
All right, so you've moved in and moved on to this business coach. Why should someone hire a business coach? You've talked about some of the things that you are passionate about doing for your clients and helping them with. So I'm somebody who either has a business or I want to start a business. Why is hiring a business coach a good idea?
First, you have to be in the right mindset to be receptive to someone providing you a different perspective, and that may challenge some of your current operations and ideas around your business. If you're looking for someone to come save the day and help with really small pieces of the puzzle, and if they're saying they're a coach, I would run from that experience. But ultimately, what you're saying is, I've exhausted all the things I know how to do. I've listened to the podcasts, I've watched the YouTube videos, I've done the free courses, I've even maybe paid for a couple courses, but ultimately, I want to take my business to this next level. And I see that you've done that for yourself and for other people. So I would say that's really what you should look for when it comes to mentorship. And from there, be picky. I'm not going to be for everyone. I don't want to be for everyone. I want to work with people who are really going to be open minded, growth minded, own their stuff, own if stuff isn't working, that maybe they're the reason for that, and also ultimately want to change and improve their life and their business. Um, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of people who are in this space. And so ask the tough questions. How do you help people? What does that look like? What have you done in your business? What success? Have you started your own business besides this one? What's your experience? Could I maybe interview one of your past clients? I think that there's just a lot of people taking up the coaching space. So it's a cautionary thing. And I don't think it's the solution for every business owner. I think if you're just getting started, there's a lot of great resources to help you get off the ground. But I do think if you've kind of exhausted all things and you're just spinning your wheels and your income is kind of stagnant, I think that's a great time to have a conversation with a coach.
Yeah, you mentioned that there's a lot of people moving into this coaching field, and there's really no standards for the coaching.
No,
So,
terrifying.
so that's that really lends itself to that good advice to make sure you're checking, you're asking about prior clients, all of those things. Good advice.
Yeah, and
So,
I
go
don't
ahead.
think it's my job to tell someone what to do. I think as a coach, it's your job to help equip your clients to
Mhm.
figure out what to do. And there's a pretty big distinction. I'm not going to say, pick this system or this one. I'm going to ask, you know, realistically, sorry, my microphone changed. I think we're good. I'm going to ask realistically, you sell to me between these two payment processing systems, which one do you think is better and why? And I'm going to help walk them through this decision making process. Because at the end of the day, they shouldn't have to be paying me for years and years and years. There's time and place for when
Right.
that may make sense. But if I can help them make more confident decisions, again, stepping into that leadership role, then I've done my job.
Yeah, that's a good mindset to have as a coach. All right. So what's the difference between, so obviously a lot of stuff is done online, right? So what's the difference? Anything that you would say is a difference or additional things to consider if it's a completely online coach from a business coach perspective?
Um, how they're delivering the material. So if you are an auditory learner, which hi, that's me, meaning I talk, right? So when I start with all my clients, I always ask, which way do you communicate best? Are you someone who types messages? Are you someone who needs video? Are you someone who needs hands-on? And I think it's really important to be aware of that. So that way they're being a little bit flexible, because if you're working on one-on-one with a coach, it's going to be the most expensive offer, but the most access to that person. If they're not flexible in how they work with you and trying to meet you where you're at, that could be a potential red flag. And I would say just overall comfortability. Have a call with them, talk to them, ask them questions. Just see overall if you feel like you have a connection with that person, because it's intimate. They're gonna look at your numbers, your finances, the good, bad, and ugly of your business, and they're gonna ask you some tough questions. So you want to be comfortable with the person too.
Yeah, that's good. Good advice. So in today's world, right, everything seems to be driven by social media. So if you have a business, you have a service, you have a product, there's at least there's probably a pretty good chance that there's some type of presence online in social media for that product or service. So how do you advise your clients on how to take advantage of those opportunities to, you know, to advertise their products or services?
The first thing is a mindset shift. And I talk about that so much just because anytime we hyper focus on a small piece of the puzzle, if the mindset's not right, it doesn't matter. And the shift that has to happen is you're no longer using this platform as a consumer. You have to step into, I'm using this as a tool in my business. What do I mean by that? The scrolling and constant seeing what other people are doing. Do you think the CEO of Starbucks is doing that? No. No. So that's where that shift has to happen, that I'm treating this like a legitimate business and I'm going to use this as a tool within my business. A couple other things to keep in mind: Sure, could you make a reel that goes viral and gets a lot of people to look at that reel? Yeah. But some other things to think about. Just because they look at that reel means the rest of your content has to be fresh and engaging and in the same vein of what that content is. So it's not enough just to try to go quote unquote viral. It's a bigger conversation than that. So a lot of people will hyper focus. They'll come to me and say, Kelsey, I need to be on TikTok. I know that's where my people are. That's the missing link. That's why I'm not having the sales that I want. And to that person, I say, what's your conversion on your website? Because it's just because you're getting people to be aware of you, there's also other things that have to happen. People don't just land on your TikTok or your Instagram and buy something. They have to know, like, and trust you. Oftentimes, they have to see something 7 to 15 times before they're even going to buy. If you're a high end ticket, whether you're a photographer or a fellow business coach, that's going to be a long journey that customer has to walk through before they're at a place where they're going to write you a check for tens of thousands of dollars. So, knowing all of that, is it worth your time to really hyper focus on your Instagram strategy? Or maybe would your time be better spent? Gosh, my website could use some attention, or maybe my website's too vague, or maybe my overall messaging isn't actually speaking to the right people because the people engaging are my friends and family and not people who are paying me money. So I kind of have an unpopular opinion around that because a lot of people come to me blaming the algorithm, kind of self diagnosing what they think the problem is. And usually it's a much bigger, earlier, I don't know, closer to the business like nucleus than people want to admit. And that's just not a sexy answer. People don't want to hear, oh, it's because you aren't speaking clearly to your ideal people, because that just isn't as exciting as, yeah, you're right. The algorithm really changed and screwed things up.
Right. The mysterious algorithm
Yeah.
behind the curtain of Oz, right?
You have to talk about your stuff. You have to talk about it a lot more than you think. So if
Yep.
you're launching something new, whether it's a product or service or a podcast, even when I launched both, I have two podcasts, and when I launched both, we had a full month launch plan and talking about it nonstop. And guess what? If quote unquote people get sick of it, then they're not your people. But it takes that momentum and that constantly revisiting it, communicating it in a different way, whether it's video, audio, photo, a graphic with text on it, saying it over and over in different ways, that is what is going to get people to buy. So if you're not talking about it, people aren't going to know about it and they're not going to buy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a marketing technique that they may teach in all marketing courses, right? Is just continue to, I mean, this whole entire industry is based on, if you I just think about, if you go online and you look at any type of product or service, you almost guaranteed over the next week or two to get ads show up on your browser, probably on social media about this product, right? And it just, like, it continually gets it in your head so that you continue to think about it. And that's the technique that's very successful.
Yeah. And we're not even fully aware it's happening. That's how quick we see so much throughout a day. At Starbucks, I'm a Seattle girl, so I'll just use the example. You go to Starbucks, you pay with the app, you're done. You get targeted ads because they saw that you paid with your app or based off of geotagging or where you were. You're on Instagram and people are sharing Instagram stories of them holding the fall cup. So you're getting bombarded with this information from big brand companies. And a lot of the times we're not even aware it's happening. Whereas if you're a smaller company, we have to try to cut through that noise. So we think we're being annoying when we talk about the thing, but we're not. And you're doing a disservice if you're not matching it to the people who need it the most. And even if your product doesn't matter what kind of business you have at the end of it, you solve a problem for someone. So let those people know that you exist and you can help them.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
All right, so it sounds like you're pretty busy with all kinds of stuff taking up your time. There's this term that's been used for many years, right? It's this work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
I personally prefer the term work-life integration, because I think, because of the industries just and more people working remotely, and time and work and taking some time off work during the middle of your day for different types of things. How do you how do you find balance in your day, and how do you help clients that may be trying to start a business, right, which takes a ton of time, to continue to have that balance so that they don't burn out and they can keep putting their best foot forward for their customers?
I have to put real effort in that because I struggle with not having it, if that makes sense. Like balance for me doesn't come natural. I am someone who can work and work and work, and then I need a day where I just watch Netflix nonstop. Like I love what I do, and it's hard to put a final line at the end of the day and wrap that up because I work remote, so I can work technically all the time. So therefore, I have to create those boundaries for myself, and I have to find a way where I'm going to stick to them. And a couple of things I've learned around that. One, that story about waking up a little bit earlier, that was a boundary I had to implement, not just waking up and having the day happen to me, which also means my scheduling. I'm really particular on when I'll schedule things. So Wednesdays for me, podcast only. So you're my fourth podcast today. I have one more, I'm done. I'm not doing anything else. I am not touching base with my clients. I am not emailing. I am only in wearing this one hat today. What else has helped with boundaries? Communication. I've been dating the same guy for a long time and looking at the week and saying, hey, this day I have some meetings that run late, but can we for sure do a date night or do something this other day? Because I know my needs, what my needs are. My love language is quality time. So I need that time together. He also needs that time together. And that's where I love the word integration, because you're right. It's never like this perfect place you arrive at. It's just a constant effort towards. And I think a lot of people get that confused. So those are a few things I do. And I encourage all my clients to work towards it. It doesn't make you like a quote unquote badass to be working 24/7. You will eventually burn out. And also, that's going to hinder your scalability. Sure, you'll have seasons where you're sprinting more than not, but overall, you have to find some level to take care of you. And the best investment is actually taking care of you so you can lead yourself, your business, and your relationships.
Yeah, I think sometimes there's a negative view of planning out your day and planning out your week and planning out your month. And if somebody plans everything out, then it's a control thing, right? But really, one of my prior guests actually talked about how planning is a gift from your present self to your future self.
I love
And
that.
it really it was rang so true for me because my wife is very good with that. She'll like plan out something as simple as the meals for the next week. And it's like just so that nobody has to wonder, right? We don't have to wonder what are we doing for dinner tonight. We have that. And while it's not hard and fast all the time and things can change, it does give us one less thing to worry about if we're wondering what are we doing for dinner tonight.
Yeah. Another thing I realized, if someone books a haircut appointment or if they book a coaching session with me, I stick to it. Even if I'm not feeling my best self, like I show up for them. So I had to ask myself, how do I show up for me?
Yeah.
And so that's where I learned to plug in. I plug in my lunch, it's a non negotiable in my calendar. I plug in gym time. That's been wishy washy, but sometimes instead of a gym, I go to the walk, go and do a walk. What else do I have in there? Journaling, that's a non negotiable for me every day. So putting them in as literal events on my calendar. And then when I'm going to maybe not follow through with that, I ask like, why am I not showing up for me right now? And that's something that has been semi recent, but has worked well for me. I know not everyone's a calendar person, but I just encourage you to find a process that will work for you. And then you just kind of just have to do it.
Yeah. No, all good points. I think it's there's some consistency that comes with everybody that's in the coaching wellness industry, and a lot of it has to do with making sure that you're doing those things that put you in the best position to succeed in whatever you're doing, because it's all connected. If you're not taking care of your physical needs, your things that you need to take care of, then you're never going to be able to show up in the best way for your clients or for your family or for anyone else. So it's such good reminders to have all the time.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's say someone's trying to do this, they're keeping their balance with work and their life. They're working hard to try and build this business, and it's the path that they're going down from a business standpoint just doesn't work. And they get enough feedback to understand that the direction they're going doesn't work. And so one of the things that you talk about a lot is pivoting and how to pivot in your business. So how do you help advise clients that may be going one direction, but may have enough information now to know that they need to kind of pivot in another direction? How do you help them with that?
Ideally, I catch them before that point.
Mm.
So, a great example being I run this mastermind called Holistic Hustle. It's for an existing business owner launching their second business or project. A lot of people in this space are service providers that want to step into the education space for their business, right? So, photographers teaching photographers, hairstylists teaching hairstylists, etc. Their business now looks completely different than what they thought they would be doing because of this mastermind. Because every conversation I had with him individually was, you know what, I want to make physical product. That's the solution to all my problems. Residual income, I can drink a Mai Tai on the beach and money will just come to me. And I was like, how many people have to buy this $20 item that you're getting manufactured. Like, let's start to run some real numbers. Okay, how many people in your audience are those customers? Guess what? Your current business, that's not your target market. You are starting from square one. So even though you have a business, this is a new business, baby. Think of how many people you have to get in front of. And that's where the bigger conversation of what's your why, what's your ultimate goal and values. So that way we're finding a solution that gets you there as efficiently as possible now, and the products will come. We can go down that road and, plug that in later. But for now, if we're really getting realistic about what you're hoping to accomplish here, maybe the vehicle you think is appropriate actually isn't. Maybe instead of taking an airplane there, maybe you need to take a skateboard or something else. And I think a lot of people, and there's so many resources out there that will help you plug in some kind of business very quickly. And before you go build a thing, I think you have to ask yourself an honest question, which is, why am I doing this? What are my long-term goals? What do I like? What's the impact I want to leave on the world? What really lights me up, fires me up? And then instead of searching for the perfect product or service that gets you there, start there. Then start talking to people who you think might be interested in the thing that you're also interested in, and create a solution with the help of that immediate feedback. But to your point, because we should also give those people some attention, which is, you walk down the path isn't working. I think you have to ask yourself two really tough questions. Does this solution work for someone? And is it maybe that I'm not talking to the right people? Or are these the right people, but maybe I'm trying to force the wrong solution? And I think that's a moment people don't really explore very often, because it's a lot easier to just bail and do something else. So if you're willing to accommodate one way or the other, right people, change your offering, right offer, go in front of different people. If those are options, do it. Do it, because even if it feels like nothing is happening now, it's probably just a matchmaking issue. And if those two things don't feel good and you're like, you know what, this just, I'm not like, this isn't what I want to do, then revisit and like find your why and build something from that first.
Yeah, all those are great suggestions, because it you want to be able to maximize. You don't want to abandon something that could have been successful just because you didn't leave any. You left some stones unturned. Not trying to figure out if there's another issue that may be preventing your success in that area.
Totally. I mean, like I said, I host two podcasts. Before that, co-hosted a different one. My solo podcast has been going, that I have guests on to sometimes, has been going for a year and a half. I just ran my first ads ever. So that's every week, new content, promoting it, talking about it, getting guests on like you're doing. It took a year and a half to get ads on it. So it takes time. And some people kind of, I think people want like immediate gratification. They want it to, happen quick. And it does happen quick for some people, at least with, what people share on social media, their highlight reel. But the reality is sometimes maybe it's just a time issue. Maybe you just have to stick in it a couple more months.
Yeah, the illustration that I've heard before has been, I think Ed Milet talked about this, where it's the piñata, right? It's not the 30 strikes before the piñata. Everybody, it's the one after those 30 strikes that gets the candy. But those 30 strikes are getting it to that place where it can be opened up, and you get the reward for it. So I think it's so true, because I think sometimes we in this type of, I mean, the human race, that's kind of one of the things we're known for, is that path of least resistance, right? So at a certain point, we can just be like, oh, I'm done with this. I'm not doing that. You've seen the stats with podcasts. Most people are in it for a year or less. But again, it's just taking another whack at the piñata. You're planting, you're building something, and if you're enjoying what you're doing and continue to do it, then you'll start seeing that success eventually.
Yeah, I agree with that totally.
Yeah, I told my wife with mine, I'm like, if I ever get to a point where I'm not having fun talking to people and having conversations, then I'll stop. But I don't think that's going to happen for a while, because this has been great.
It's a great gig. As someone who's been on the other side of the mic, it's a fun thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because you never know. I mean, you never know where a conversation's going to go. It's pretty great. I thought that my one fear was that I thought that, I have quite a few interesting people in my network, or, at the time when I was thinking about starting it, my one fear was like, well, what if I run out of guests? But it's amazing how opportunities open up to connect with other people, and it just continues to snowball. It's good.
Totally agree.
All right, Kelsey. So this has been a great conversation. What would you like my guests to leave with? If they had one thing to leave this podcast with from you and everything that you're doing on your side, what would it be?
It would be to take messy action. And that's something that younger me has needed to hear. And I'm still not great at it. I still sit on ideas sometimes, but ultimately it would be if you want to start a podcast, if you want to start a business, or maybe offer something different in your business, whatever bare minimum enough to get it off the ground you can throw together to do it, because you are going to learn so much faster by having an imperfect version out there but getting feedback in the meantime than hiding in the corner making something perfect and beautiful and then throwing it out there and being sad when no one bites on it.
I like that. I wrote that down. Taking messy action. I think that's great. Very cool. All right. So if any of my listeners want to learn more about you, is the website the best way to go? KelseyMarieKnutson.com.
Yeah,
all right.
Everything's on there. There's a link to the podcast on there. I have everything from free resources if you're feeling kind of stuck and need a little check-in to high-level one-on-one coaching. And I'm an open book. And if you want to hang out and be friends, I'm probably on Instagram the most.
All right. Very cool, Kelsey. Well, I'll make sure that's in the show notes. I've checked it out. I've checked out a few of those episodes on your podcast. Very cool. Nice blend of some really interesting topics and then having some guests on there too. So keep up the great work there. And I appreciate you giving me a few minutes of your time.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. And please, if you like this podcast, leave a review for the team here and for all the guests' sake and for the host's sake.
Yeah, there you go. Love it when I have other podcasters on. They always give the right shouts.
Hey, we get it.
We get it. All right. Thanks, Kelsey.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining us on our journey to learn about various topics. If you'd like to get in touch with the Dad Who Knows Nothing, connect with him at the Dad Who Knows Nothing on TikTok and Instagram, or Dad Knows Zero on Twitter. If you have a moment and you like this episode, drop us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Have a great day and enjoy your journey through this game called life.